This is the Topstone Rubber Company building from the early 1950s on 77 South Street in Bethel, Connecticut. It was home on the second floor, and we're about to see one of the original master mother molds of Topstone Rubber Company. Let's check it out.
But we're fanning the goop. What is it called?
Alginate.
Alginate. This is alginate, and my lovely assistant Savannah is here, a lovely assistant. And Adam from Menace Productions is here as we're making history. This mold probably hasn't been touched by human hands in 50 years. And we found it at Dante Vaghi's woodworking studio when he closed down somewhere in the early 90s. And so here we are in New Fairfield, Connecticut, starting out from Bethel, Connecticut. And we are here, we are going to recreate goof. Now those of you who don't know who goof is, goof was it was Edgar Bergen's dummy. It was Mortimer Snurd. He was a character, but maybe for copyright reasons they couldn't call it Mortimer Snurd. But those of us in the baby boomer era knew this caricature as Mortimer Snurd. But here, it's known as goof. And it was in the 1960 Topstone Rubber Company catalog. So we'll get back to you in a little while. We'll tell you how we're progressing.
We have a man in a top hat
Trying. Oh, we have to be dressed in a top hat to dry.
Exactly.
To dry molds. We are on the tail end of a story. Who knows how far the story is going to go. But the story started in 1946 in Gepler Cider Mill on the Richfield Reading border in that little haunted hollow in Simpog Turnpike. And when you're down there at night and you hit that little haunted hollow with the railroad track, you think you're in the Twilight Zone.
Really?
And there's a giant house now. It was called Gepler's Cider Mill. And up until 1946, that's what they did there. And then in 1946, Topstone Rubber Toy Company moved in there. And from 1946 to about 1950, they were there in that little haunted hollow. And then they moved to 77 South Street in Bethel, where the Vaghis had their woodworking store. And they rented the upstairs of Vaghi Woodworking. And this was in the early 1950s. And then when I was in kindergarten in 1955, September of 55, our class trip was to walk down the street to 77 South Street, Topstone Rubber, at Halloween, and we saw all the Halloween masks being made and painted and crimped. And it was wonderful to have this in. And somewhere in this video, you're going to meet Margaret Harry, who was a 15-year-old girl from Scotland who was working at Topstone Rubber Company in 1955 when I was 5 years old. This is going to be quite an excursion.
Here we are applying a Monster Maker's alginate to the original goof master mother mold. We're doing it in small batches to make sure we get into the cracks and the crevices of this deteriorating mother mold, and making sure we're careful to get every little last inch. As you can see, we got multiple people pointing and making sure that we get everything and every place. The cure time is reasonable, so we are able to do this in small batches and take our time to make sure we get all the detail. We don't want to miss anything. Even though it's a simple mask, we want to make sure it's all there. Next up is the medical grade plaster bandages. We're cutting them into long and short strips, and we're prepping to make sure we can get everything now all at once. This has a little bit less of a cure time, and we want to make sure we get all the strips laid out. This is going to help add support to that alginate mold, so when we dump in some clay, it won't like warp or get weird. Here's that alginate mold right before we put some of the clay in. We're going to melt down some oil-based clay and then brush it in here to create a positive of this, so it'll be a recreation of the original mold. Here's that positive clay that we put into that alginate mold, and here is the original. You could see it captures everything, all the cracks and all the crevices. And here is an original goof mask from the 1950s. And here's that alginate mold where we brushed in the oil-based clay. This is just a really cool site, having the original mask, a recreation based on the mother mold, and the mother mold right next to it. So what a cool site. So much history and things that are almost 50 to 60 years old, along with new modern things to help preserve Halloweens of the past. I think it's amazing. And to have this in my basement and to be able to be a part of this has been incredible. Here's a close-up of that clay positive, and you could see there's so much deterioration that we have to start to smooth out. And I'm gonna do this by using my hands and simple tools to maintain that like awesome old school look of the mother mold. Here's the final version of the clay sculpt. I smoothed it out, but still kept that nostalgia look. Still tried to keep it so that it seemed organic and maintain that original feel of the mother mold. Here's the molding process. I believe we used Ultra Cal and we brushed it on in pretty thick coats to make a pretty big, substantial mold so that this will last for years to come. It has that sculpt, that oil-based clay there, and we brush it on over the oil-based clay to create this negative mold. Here's that mold, demolded. All the clay is out, it's been cleaned, and it's ready for casting, and we're gonna cast a latex-based cast in here, and you could see that master mother mold right next to it. Here's a latex pull from that mold, and we're about to paint it. I'm trying to match the colors as best I could, and hand paint on things like the eyebrows. There you have it, on Halloween night, the recreation of the goof mask from Topstone Rubber Company out of Bethel, Connecticut, the second floor of that building. And we have this mold that we've recreated from the master mother mold to recreate history. So it was awesome to be able to recreate this and pull out a mask that's over 50 to 60 years old, recreate it, and have it as something that can live on now for generations to come. And here's the owner of the original master mother mold along with my recreation, and he is just so happy and smitten. If you want to see more videos, you can check them out here or go on my YouTube page. And until next time, happy haunting.